Due to moving, I haven't had time to make videos recently. However, the free time that I've had, I've spent programming on my projectional editor. In this video, I want to demo its current state and talk a bit about its development. Hi, I'm Rickard and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm making programming related videos where I try to document the projects that I'm working on. I show demos and I show my process and also tips and tricks and things I learn. If that sounds interesting, check out my other videos and don't forget to subscribe to get notified when I upload new videos. Recently, I've started building a projectional editor. So a projectional editor differs from a text editor in that it can project the data structure being edited in various ways. So it's not limited to syntax highlighted lines, for example. I'm interested in exploring the architecture of a projectional editor, and I'm also interested in exploring if a projectional editor can be useful for me in some situations. Can it replace a text editor in some situations for me? So let me show you the current state of my projectional editor and what it's capable of. Okay, so let's start the editor and see what it looks like. So when we start the editor without arguments, it opens an example document, and that example document is created from the file itself. So the file itself is projected in various ways. So let's have a look at what we're seeing here. At the top line, there is a status bar, a status line. And further down, there are two splits where two different projections are shown of the same document. So the status line shows the last event that occurred and how long that event took to render. So in this case, it's a size event telling the projection how much size it has to draw its text. So at the moment, this setup is here just to experiment with two different projections of the same underlying document. So all the keystrokes that I make here will also be applied to both documents. So let me show you. You can see here that the cursor is blinking at the first position, both in the top projection and in the bottom projection. So I can move the cursor back and forth. And you can also see that the status line changes. So now we get a keyboard event, and as a result of the keyboard event, a new projection is made and the screen is re-rendered. So I can move around here, and when we come to the end of the line and go one step further, in the top projection it will move to the next line, but in the bottom projection it will just move past that new line character. And if I keep scrolling, you can also see that the text moves to make sure that the cursor is shown in the space allotted to this projection. So if I keep going even further, we'll see that it will also start moving lines up and down in the top projection. So now we're seeing line 1 to 8. If I keep going here to the next line, we'll see 2 to 9. So apart from moving the cursor back and forth, we can also make edits. So I can insert some text by typing some characters. And I also want to show another feature, another concept that I've implemented, and that's multiple cursors. So there is a way to make multiple selections. They are now just incremented by a couple of characters. So it's nothing useful at the moment, but it shows what's possible with multiple cursors. So now you can see that we have three selections here, and the same selections are made in both projections. So now we have actually got three cursors in each projection. And if I start typing now, the selection will be replaced by what I type. So you can imagine that this is useful in like a search and replace scenario. You just select all the things you want to replace and then type the replacement. And I got the idea for multiple cursors when I saw a demo of Forest. And Forest was also some kind of structured projectional editor. And I thought multiple cursors made perfect sense in that context. So I thought, why not try to experiment with that as well? And I believe Sublime Text also uses this multiple cursors approach. So I guess it's useful in some situations in text editors as well. So imagine how search and replace could be implemented in a projectional editor with multiple cursors. So first of all, you might type a command to produce an on-the-fly document containing all the lines that match something that you want to replace. So you create a custom document that shows like snippets from different documents. So up here, imagine that all these lines come from different files, but they are projected as one document on screen. And then you can just make multiple selections over those couple of lines and do the replacement. So that's one thing that I'm thinking of, how to do edit operations differently and how a projectional editor can enable such different workflows. So let's have a look at the projection that actually creates this editor. So we got it here in the example document, and it comes from it's created from this source file. So the projection is actually created here. So at the outermost we have the editor. The editor is what renders this status bar. Next we have a split. And a split is something that renders different projections as child windows, sort of. And the first child is a clip scroll projection containing lines to terminal text, containing string to lines from a string. So this means here we create the bottommost document, which is a string read from this file. Then we project this string to a set of lines. Then we project the lines to terminal text, and terminal text is then clip and scrolled. So what clip and scroll does is that it makes sure that the cursor is visible by moving the document up and down and left and right. And clipping ensures that all the text that falls outside of the allotted space are just removed to like improve rendering speed, so we don't have to render anything that's outside that won't be visible anyway. And the bottom pane is similarly wrapped in a clip scroll projection, and it also has the exact same string as the bottommost document, but instead of transforming the string to lines and then lines to terminal text, we convert the string directly to terminal text. And this projection just shows the string as a single line, and new line characters are rendered in a different font or a different color to show that they are like special characters. So when exploring this architecture, all these projections that you see here are purely functional operations. So the string here is an immutable object, and the string to lines creates a lines object which is also immutable. So every time an event happens, like a size event or I press a key, this whole data structure here is created from scratch using just pure functions to transform from different documents, like from a string to lines to terminal text, and then clip the terminal text and then finally show it on the screen. And using this architecture, each projection here can focus on a single thing. So clip and scroll, it's only concerned with removing stuff that won't be visible anyway, but it has no idea of what's inside here, so it doesn't have to know about that, which makes this architecture quite clean. You can focus on a single thing, and then you can combine these projections in various ways to create different outputs. And so far, I find it a quite nice architecture. So because of this purely functional architecture, like every time I press a key on the keyboard, every time an event happens, this whole thing is re-rendered from scratch. And I suspect this can lead to bad performance in some situations when you have like large text files and many projections. But I'm trying to not focus so much on that right now. I think there are probably ways to make this fast enough, like you can use caching because everything is purely functional, to just re-render if something changed, for example, and stuff like that. So right now I'm just rendering small files and trying to flesh out the architecture and experiment. And I think if performance becomes a problem, it can probably be solved in some way, but I'm trying not to focus on that right now. I'm quite happy with the progress so far, so I'm quite optimistic that I'll be able to create something that will actually be useful in some way for me. I think the possibilities with a projectional editor and using various projections for various situations is very interesting, and I can't wait to try to apply my ideas in this editor. Perhaps you'll see more of it on this channel. Until next time.